Prepare yourself for the terror. The prison of madness, where few enter and none return.
Welcome to Unsung Horrors. With Lance. And Erica.
Leave all your sanity behind. It can't help you now.
Welcome to another episode of Unsung Horrors, the podcast where we discuss horror movies with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. I'm Erica.
And I'm Lance.
But this is No Rules November, which means we toss out our rule, but we are still trying to shine a light on films that are less known to folks. And so for this episode, we are going to be talking about Aunt Alejandra from 1979, or Tia Alejandra. And there is no better person in the world, in the entire mundo, to talk about this film than our dear friend, Abraham Castillo Flores. Welcome back, Abraham.
So delighted and happy to be back with you, both of you, and Unsung Horrors, your all wonderful audience. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. It really brings warmth to my heart in this year that has been so weird, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who can say that. So thank you. I'm delighted to be back, and yes, we're going to be talking about La Tia Alejandra.
Yes. Before we get into the movie, though, it's been a few years since you've been on the show, and I know you've been up to a lot of amazing things, including helping with Blu-ray releases and with some other presentations and productions and stuff like that. Talk about yourself, pimp all the good stuff that you've been doing recently for our listeners to get a handle on. Anything that releases that you're on that you want to bring some light to. Go off, Abraham. Tell us all that you've been working on.
Okay, so I left the festival that I had been programming for 12 years, and I've been concentrating on resurrecting Mexican horror films. What I mean by that is making sure that they get re-released on Blu-rays, the whole gorgeous treatment of new transfers, restorations when it's possible, doing special features, booklets, new interviews, digging out information that's been sitting there and I don't want it to be lost forever in time. So I've been concentrating on that. I've been very lucky that I found incredible partners in different labels like Indicator, Severin Films. Other films have been resurrected, not by me, but other labels like Vinegar Syndrome. So I've been able to help with that. So it's been quite incredible. And at the same time, I was very honored to curate a film series at the Academy Museum called Mexico Maleficarum, which allowed us to bring 20 Mexican horror films from the 20th century to the big screen. And in some cases, we were able to restore, sometimes save some films. So that's been incredible. I was able to take that to the Cinémathèque Française in Paris, which was amazing. And as Erica said, the Blu-ray releases, which have been incredible. We did the box sets México Macabre and El Vampiro, which were incredible deep dives into Mexican classic cinema that allowed me to have new interviews with either the family of the creators or, to deep dive into the archives and find material that had not been, looked at in probably 40 years. So that was pretty beautiful and do quite a job of resurrection. And lately I've been obsessed with mummies. I love mummies in general, but Mexican mummies is one of my personal favorites. And it started as a masterclass and it ended becoming a show called The Testament of the Mexican Mummy, which is the story of mummies in Mexican cinema. At the same time that happening, I had to deal with my father's death. And I had to say that doing that saved my life. It really, I got a fourth taste of how they say that sometimes, doing what you love can save you. And art. So talking about mummies and death, and then actually, experiencing the death of my father, I was able to bring that together, and it did save my life. So I can say that mummies help, definitely. So that's what I've been doing lately. And I have a release coming up next year, which I cannot say yet, but we've restored a very weird movie, and which I'm sure it's going to make a lot of people very curious about Mexican cinema because this is an anomaly in Mexican cinema.
Oh,
So that's I think what I can say at the moment.
okay. Well, I mean, if your stamp is on it, then I'm already sold. So sign me up.
You'll be very happy when you hear about it, and there's some
Okay.
fantastic partners with that
Okay.
release. So yes.
Wonderful. I'm still waiting on Ship of Monsters, but that's okay.
Well, we did, but no, as I said, this was a very strange year. A lot of the great deals that were about to happen fell because the world isn't in it's kind of upside down.
Yeah.
Not there are not probably nice words to say what's happening right now, but yes, some of things got derailed. But I'm working on, as I said, I like resurrections, so I'm working on the resurrection of that.
Well, we appreciate any effort for that.
No, but the ship of monsters is right at the top of the list. Do not worry about that. There is not only a mission with Mars, with Venus, but with the vampire monsters in that film.
Wonderful.
So there's a lot of emotion and a lot of misiones. There's a mission to bring them back.
Wonderful. Yeah. I think we had our Horror Gives Back challenge last month, and there was a Bela Lugosi movie that I had mentioned to Lance. I think it was a Todd Browning movie where Bela Lugosi's woman that he's traveling with flies in on these giant bat wings, and I'm like, second only to Lorena Velasquez. But
she was our vampire queen, definitely.
Yes, one and only, and never to be dethroned. I'm really excited about all this stuff. I know we had a number of our listeners from California who went out to your presentation at the Academy. So I wish I could have been out there for that, but it sounded amazing. Every time someone was posting about that, I was like, so jealous I'm not there right now. Yeah. But so happy for you. That sounds like such an amazing project.
It was great, and I have to say, it was really beautiful to see the Academy Museum interested in that and putting all that effort, love, and work into Mexican horror cinema. It was a beautiful thing, and I'm not sure that could happen right now. So yes, I think we took the chance at the perfect moment and the perfect time. And the best part is that I think it kind of pushed, so there was more light into more interest into Mexican horror cinema, and a lot of people opened up to it. And then there was we made sure some of the films that we put there were available on Blu-ray, and there was interest in doing that. So I think it was a snowball effect, which was I'm delighted it happened.
Wonderful.
In sunny California, doing snowball effects in sunny California is a difficult thing, but we did it.
All right, so let's jump into our film for today. Tia Alejandra. Now she moves in with her relatives, husband Rodolfo, wife Lucia, and their 3 children, Martita, Andreas, and Milena. And she immediately starts, let's say, poisoning the air with superstition and brujeria. She terrorizes the children and wages a sort of passive psychological war on her hosts. Her spell work escalates until the household turns into a pressure cooker where every slight against her becomes a potential curse. I know I left that vague, but that's really the story is very simple. It's just about her moving in with the family and strange occurrences start happening all around her. We're going to start with the crew on this. The film was directed by Arturo Riptein. Now, I've only seen a couple of his films, one being Deep Crimson from 1996. That has a Criterion release, and it's sort of a retelling of The Honeymoon Killers. And I've also seen Time to Die, or Tiempo de Morir, which was his first feature film after working with Luis Buñuel. And selfish plug, I actually have a booklet essay in that release, that Blu-ray release that you can get from Vinegar Syndrome. And it's all about Gabriel Garcia Marquez and Carlos Fuentes and the Latin boom and sort of that connection to film that was happening at that time. So I highly recommend the film and my essay. Abraham,
absolutely, yes.
What can you tell us about Arturo Ripstein?
Okay. Arturo Ripstein is a super interesting character in the Mexican filmverse. he's considered a sacred cow. He's in the 70s. He's one of the leading directors that tries to do auteur cinema, and because of the political situation and the changes in just in the filmscape, he has fantastic films that are like super important right now. I mean, and the curious thing of Tia Alejandra, which is the 13th feature film in his career, is that it's a total anomaly. First, because it's the only one that is horror, even though a lot of his films have a lot of horrible things happening in it, and he really likes the dark side of the spectrum of human behavior. This one is the only one that he openly uses genre tropes, and he delves into the whole brujeria and black magic stuff. And he openly says that what interested him in doing this film is to doing a film that was fun, a film that was like able to seduce audiences and just take them on a fun ride. So it's interesting that he considers it not. I'm not going to say a lesser work, but it's not of his prime films. And it's very interesting because when this film came out, the reactions were mixed, but there were some of the most important film critics at that time mentioned that this was an anomaly because it was probably one of the best horror films ever to come out of Mexico, because he didn't go the usual route of the zany monsters or like any of the luchador things that we find. And it's they even call it subtle. I don't know if subtle is a word you can use in horror, but they call it subtle, and that was why it was so well loved by many film critics. Interesting to mention about Mr. Arturo Ripstein is Mr. Ripstein. You mentioned that he was an assistant with Buñuel, but that's actually sort of a legend, because although he did work as an assistant for Luis Buñuel in The Exterminating Angel, he actually really just carried his briefcase because Buñuel never told him anything.
Oh,
The interesting part is no, and he says that they made a legend about it because he asked things about Buñuel and everything, and he never shared anything about filmmaking. How he got into that is that Mr. Ripstein is the son of Alfredo Ripstein, who's the owner of Alameda Films, one of the most important film production companies in Mexico that still today exists. Actually, they're the owners of many of the horror films that are so important in this century. But that's another story. The interesting part here is that there's a film from 1962 called El Espejo de la Bruja, The Witch's Mirror, directed by Chano Urueta. This man, Chano Urueta, is actually the mentor of Arturo Ripstein. And La Tia Alejandra is really a riff on a cinematographic level, not on the script. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but a riff on that film. And they play really well. The connection points are incredible, but also because Chano Urueta, who was director of the Witch's Mirror, was the mentor of Arturo Ripstein. He mentions that Chano Urueta was the most intelligent man working in the film industry that did the shittiest movies. That's what Arturo Ripstein said. Arturo Ripstein is like, he's a badass. He's not a nice man. He's very harsh. He's hard. His sets are, he likes to scream. He likes to have terror in his sets. So he's a difficult man, but his work is fantastic. And we're not talking about likability. We're talking about filmmaking, right? So let me get back to Chano Urueta. Chano Urueta, very intelligent man, super interesting, and he made some of the craziest movies. He's responsible for The Brainiac.
Yes.
I think that says it all.
Yeah.
Right? And in The Witch's Mirror, the actress who plays La Tia Alejandra plays a witch, Sarah. So imagine having the same actress from A Witch's Mirror become a witch 40 years later or something like that. I think it's definitely a connection point. And there are many scenes where he mirrors things from the other movie. So there's like an homage, a cinematographic homage to that movie, and it's the same actress. So I think it's impossible not to bind them together and consider that. Some people even say that this is a sequel, or like an unofficial sequel. It is not, because they're not related, but it's very easy to see the connection points. And I think that's why it's very interesting when you start doing deep dive into this movie, because you find not only the stuff about the movie, but then the connections throughout time between these two very interesting movies about witches and how witches are so important in. Not only in the horror realm, but also in Mexico, in the Mexican culture. The idea of a woman being able to control the elements in a private way, within their homes. It is, almost everybody can tell you that they know someone in their family who either delves into that or that uses that. So I think it's a beautiful way of dealing with that. Am I going okay so far?
Yeah, no, you're wonderful. I definitely saw
Okay.
the witches mirrors connection, not just because of Isabella Corona, but just it having. I hate throwing the word vibe out, but it definitely has that element. Although witches mirror is much more explicitly horror, I think.
Yeah, a little more gothic feeling.
Yeah, this one's a little bit more kind of like you said, understated.
I could probably tell you that 80% of the movies that use the brujeria aspect, they will use a female as the leading bruja. Yes, there are warlocks, but there are definitely fewer. It's a minority.
Like Joaquin Castro and Dr. Satan. Those movies I love.
Por ejemplo, El Doctor Satan, exactly. Which is there's actually a connection to Dr. Satan. I'm delighted that you brought him up. We'll come to that one later. I want to take something that I found in the ads for this movie, in the lobby cards, which is really nice. It says, this is the ad. It says, "This is a duel, Tia Alejandra. This is a duel to the death between two women. One is young, the other one is old. One is rich, the other one is poor. One is a mother, the other one's a spinster. But one of them is a witch."
Ooh.
Love it.
Yeah. I thought it was long, but I really liked it. I liked it quite a lot. And and it's on the lobby cards, big, no? So I thought it was very much this idea of like the young versus the old, and Diana Bracho versus Isabella Corona, and we're gonna go into some interesting gossip about them, which makes that even more interesting. One very important thing that I want to mention is about where this story comes from. Because as people are going to say that they're going to start thinking about the unofficial sequel of The Witch's Mirror, but this started as a short story. The short story, 1975 short story called Muñeca Vestida de Azul, Doll Dressed in Blue. So from a writer called Delfina Cariaga. She turned that short story into a screenplay with Sabina Berman. Sabina Berman is a very well-known author, novelist. She's a author of plays, and she's done quite a bit of films. And she's a very interesting woman. She's actually been working with Alejandro González Iñárritu in the new Tom Cruise movie. But this was her first screenplay, and that screenplay won a contest for the National Screenplay Contest for the Writers Guild in Mexico. So that they got I'm not going to say famous, but they got noticed, right? Mm-hmm. So at some point, the owners of this script looked to Arturo Riptein and asked him to do another movie. He said, "Oh, I did that movie shit. I'm not going to do it. Let me see what else you have." And they showed him the script for La Tia Alejandra. It was already called La Tia Alejandra, not Doll Dressed in Blue. Mm-hmm. And he liked it very much. He said that the actual script was shit. And that's his words. He really likes the shit thing when he says he does. And this is for real. In any case, he disliked the script, and he told the producer, "Look, let me get a crack into the script. I'm going to rewrite it with Vicente Leñero." Vicente Leñero is another sacred cow of Mexican cinema. He's probably the most revered screenwriter in Mexican cinema, and he kind of every big hit of Mexican cinema, you're probably going to find his name, Vicente Leñero. So these two guys rewrote the story, and that's what they shot. In a curious thing, 2 years later, when the movie came out, it won the screenplay award, and Delfina Cariaga and Sabina Berman got the award, not Vicente Leñero and Arturo Ripstein. So I thought I should mention that. That was an interesting thing. And this was also a movie that was shot very fast. They shot, imagine, from the 6th of December to the 15th of December. So if I'm not mistaken, that's like 10 days. Yeah. They shot this movie in 10 days.
Wow.
And Arturo Riptein said he was very happy with all the crew that he was able to work with this film. Everybody was fantastic, but he did say that very limited money, very limited time, and he wish he would have had more time. I want to mention something that, knowing that Lance brought the Dr. Satan thing, the director of photography of this film was a very, very curious man and interesting. Jorge Ortiz Ramos. This man has 256 film credits under his belt. Imagine that.
Yeah.
He did everything. Musicals, drama, westerns, comedy, horror. And in the horror, he has the Luis Buñuel film. But on his horror credentials, let me just bring out some beautiful things. He did Dr. Satan and Black Magic, but he also did The Brainiac, The Curse of La Llorona, Santo in the Wax Museum, Santos versus the Vampire Women, Santo and the Revenge of the Vampire Women, and Santo versus the Zombies. So he knew his way around horror movies. And I find it fantastic that that this man is also in Tia Alejandra. On all of those films that I mentioned most of them are in color and in black and white, except Dr. Satan and Black Magic, which is, you can see him using that savoir faire and that flair in this movie.
Yeah, I think it has that advantage of it was only, if it was only shot in 10 days, it is single location. And I think it's one of the more effective ones in that, if you call it a subgenre, single location. I mean, there's a couple other, like at the opening where the grandmother dies, and then a couple scenes with like the doctor and the train station. But for the most part, it's all within that house. And so I think it makes it easier when you're on a tight schedule to have that type of film, and also just sort of adding to the claustrophobia of this sort of, what did I call it earlier? Like pressure cooker element to
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Absolutely. You're forgetting one wonderful location, which, if I may say so right now, it is my favorite part of the movie. The moment when Tia Alejandra brings Andres and Martita, who are the younger kids of the family, to see the mummies of San Angel.
Yep.
Which are, everybody talks about the mummies of Guanajuato, but here in Mexico City, we have, there's an old convent where they have 11 desiccated mummies, and you can go see them still to this day, and they're wonderful. And she tells Martita, "Can you hear them?" And she says, "Yes." "Do you understand them?" "No." And I thought that's one of my favorite moments. I love it. And of course, that's a section I go over and over and over in the whole show I did about the mummies. And it's one of those first elements that starts bringing you into, there is another realm. This woman is in touch with something else, and in a delightful way. They never tell you how she does it or how it works, but they give you all these hints. She goes to the market to buy, the herbs, and she does all these like things with black candles, and she has like a secretive thing. She buys birds. She has like an agenda, although she's always smiling, which I think is a very interesting part of this film. You talked about the passive aggressive thing, and I think that is crucial. She's always trying to be helpful, but then these weird things start coming about, and when things don't go her way, shit starts going all over the place.
Yeah, I do like how she sets her witchy ways up and explains it to the family that it's. And I don't know if this is lost in translations and the subtitles. Abraham, you could let me know if this is accurate, but the subtitle says she calls it old woman mania. Like,
yes, no. That's what she says. Absolutely, that's they did that right. That's how she says it.
Okay.
Yeah, I like how it's immediately set up. Like she's kind of explaining you're going to see some weird stuff, but this is just old woman mania to the family. But obviously the explanation starts becoming more clear what her intentions are.
Yeah. That is,
and it's nice how she's starting being nice to everybody, but as soon as someone is not nice and just gets nasty, she gets nastier.
No? Oh yeah,
and it's really interesting how she just goes up super fast. There's that section where she almost boils the teenage girl when she's taking a bath.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember that. There's a moment where it's like, "You shouldn't be in the hot water." "No, it's not hot." It's like, "It is hot. It is very hot." And suddenly it starts getting super hot. I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah.
So sorry, going back to the whole crew thing. There's all pros in this movie. There's a younger director. He has 13 movies by this time, so he definitely knows what he's doing. But he's still on the young side. But his DP is like, he's been working since 1940s, so he knows his stuff. He's fast. There's also a detail that I want to bring up, which is a lot of people don't know about, but is the music. The music is quite bizarre and kind of not talked about. Important detail. The man who has the credit for the music, Luis H. Breton, who's an old timer. He came to Mexico during the Spanish Civil War in the late 40s. He only does one track. The rest of the track was done by Felix Martin, who was the assistant of Arturo Riptein, and Juan Arturo Breman, who had been a student of his. And they made the two of them together made the synthesizers, and they started playing with the synthesizers, and they made up all this music just to create this bizarre atmosphere that I think works really, really well, and brings it, I think, more into the 70s, not late 70s when the film was done, and it just takes it out of the more classical era. And I thought that was very interesting because not many people talk about that, but I think that the whole music thing gives it a vibe that was not found in most Mexican films at the time. Very few people were using those devices and that type of music. I think it's important to bring it up.
That really stood out for me. So did Breton, who's another link to Dr. Satan, he did the music there, but is it just the opening track that he did with the music box? Do you know what the
the opening track, and I think the last track.
Okay.
Although there's someone that has a credit for the valse at the end. So there's that. I still have that doubt of how much of Luis Breton did for that music, or maybe he did a score and then they didn't use it, but they had to put him because of union things. Union. Remember that shooting union in Mexican cinema, is a very important thing, and that actually even affected the casting of this film. I'll go into that later. But there is something there. It's not talked about in the books and everything that I researched. There is not, but there's definitely a thread that left me there with a question: why is Luis Breton there credited when there's almost nothing of him in the movie? But
when I heard that score, I was like, Lance is going to dig this.
Oh yeah, it's very disorienting. I mean, it builds tension wonderfully, especially when, which we'll get to, Andres is walking down the stairs in his roller skates. The music there's this electronic soundtrack that seems to be playing backwards when Alejandra is in her bed and she's putting her necklaces on. It's very experimental and something like you pointed out, Abraham, it's something that you don't see in Mexican horror like this during this era.
Absolutely. And I think that was a big element of what, made the movie not only different, but it just created another feeling, another vibe. And you're going to dig this. They actually created 3 different synthesizers for this movie. And they actually had a nickname for the synthesizers. They were called Larry, Moe, and Curly.
They are definitely playful. It's
exactly very obvious homage to certain beloved comics.
Is there anyone else on the crew that you wanted to mention before we move on to the cast?
I think that's as far as the art direction, the production design. They got an award for doing that. The interesting part is that there was a very interesting woman there in the credits called Lucero Isaac. Lucero Isaac is the woman that she was one of the most important production designers in Mexico, and she was the one that fought for getting production designers not only a more prominent role, but respect within the film industry. And she was a very important lady in making sure that women got into the industry. And she's not very much talked about, but she was crucial in developing art direction and the role of how what you saw on the sets, the wardrobe and the makeup had to go in together. Like, she was really important in blending that, Lucero Isaac. So that's definitely a woman that should be more studied. They made a wonderful book about her last year here in Mexico, so if people are interested in like pioneers in Mexican cinema, female pioneers in Mexican cinema that are not directors. She was an art director. She was also an artist. Lucero Isaac is definitely a legend. They should make a series about her. She was a dancer. She did the album covers for very important pop artists here in Mexico. So yeah, definitely an artist to find out. Lucero Isaac.
Well, I wonder.
Let's go into the casting, shall we?
Yeah. I was going to say, I wonder if it was her choice to put up the Star Wars and Rocky poster in the guest room.
Delighted that you brought it up. I'm sure that was her. I could bet money on that. I know the woman that wrote the book about her, and I actually wrote the question when I was doing the notes for this talk that we're having. It's like, need to ask Elisa about does she think that it was her who put the Rocky and the Star Wars posters up? I'm sure it was her. It takes a lot. It is quite a statement to put those pictures there, I think.
It is, yeah. I mean, and also with the music, like you said, it's very, yeah. It seems to me, it makes it timeless. I mean, it is a locked era. You're moving into the '80s, but watching this movie, it's jarring. You're kind of expecting a certain decade, but it stands alone, kind of timeless in my view.
I think so too. All right, I want to get to this gossip. I'm very excited for it. So we're going to talk about the cast next. Just really quickly run through, and then I'm going to let Abraham loose with the gossip. So Tia Alejandra, as mentioned earlier, is played by Isabella Corona. I think a lot of our listeners know her, as we mentioned already, from Witch's Mirror. Lucia, played by Diana Bracho. This one, I don't think she's been in very many horror movies, but I did notice she was in Y tu mamá también. Rodolfo, played by Manuel Ojeda, and the Dr. Ignacio, I think I'm saying this right, Retes?
Yes, that's it, Retes.
Close enough for me. I tried.
No, you did it fantastically.
Okay, so Abraham, tell us all about this cast.
All right, so let's start first with Isabella Corona, Aunt Alejandra. Isabella Corona is sadly not one of the huge Mexican superstars of classical Mexican cinema, but she should be. She's on the level with Betty Davis and Simone Signoret from France. I would say definitely.
Wow.
She was usually like a villain or like a lady with like a very hardcore attitude. Her first role in cinema was a witch, and then she did The Witch's Mirror and then Tia Alejandra. So that's why she always was considered good for the villain roles. Isabella Corona, was originally from Guadalajara, the same birthplace of Guillermo del Toro, and she started very young. A very famous painter from Mexico, Dr. Atl, discovered her. She had a wonderful, wonderful voice, and she saw that she was very good reciting poetry. So she brought her to different poets, like some of the most important poets of the time, and they saw how good she was, and they encouraged her to go into not only poetry, but into acting school. And there, along with Julio Bracho in the 1930s, they got together, they even married, and they started a revolution in Mexican theater. They were the first to present the works of people like Cocteau, O'Neill, and Paul Claudel in Mexico. And Isabella Corona was considered like the first lady of theater in Mexico during the 30s and 40s. It was really, really good. She was asked to go into movies at a very early time, but she kept saying she was one of those that considered cinema to be like a lesser art from movies. So she got in there late. Having said that, once she got into film roles, she got really good film roles. She did great. There's a movie from 1950 called Trotacalles, Streetwalker, that if you can get your hands on, it's fantastic, fantastic. And it's actually written and directed by a female director, Matilde Landeta, in the 1950s. And this is actually the second woman in commercial Mexican film history to have directed a film, Matilde Landeta. So I think that's an important thing to say. Also, you might remember Maria Felix, right? You guys know Maria Felix, like probably the most important, icon of Mexican actresses, right? There was one role called a film called Doña Bárbara. That's the one that made Maria Felix super famous. That role was written for Isabella Corona, and at the last minute, she was let go for that role, and the role was offered to Maria Felix. So there's people that say that there was black magic involved, because there's people that say that Maria Felix was a witch and that they took her out. But it was just the producer who said, "Look, the other one's younger, and she's much more attractive, and she's going to become a box office. Yes, the other one's a better actress. And apparently, Isabella Corona understood this. She never held a grudge. They didn't become friends, but she understood what was happening. No, and I don't know. I thought it was important to say that those two paths crossed at some point, and a huge Mexican film star was created from that role that was tailored for her.
Wow.
So important to know.
Yeah.
In 1964, she kept working. This time, I have to say, she kept working on cinema. She kept working on theater. But in 1964, she started getting in problems with the theater owners and the unions. So what Isabella Colon started doing that when there were problems with doing work in theaters, she started working in cabarets, and she would started to sing and doing shows in cabarets, which was kind of unheard of. Someone from the theater going into cabaret. Curious thing, when she was offered the role for this film, she understood, she of course probably was the one who saw the connection with The Witch's Mirror.
Mm-hmm.
She was a bit reluctant to work with Diana Bracho because Diana Bracho, the daughter of Julio Bracho, who was once her husband, and this is Diana Bracho, the daughter of another woman. So she was a little bit reluctant because she thought that Diana Bracho was not going to be nice to her. So she was not very happy about the idea until she met Diana, who apparently was super nice and was delighted to hear all the stories about, her father's first marriage. So eventually they became close, and apparently there was a very, very good relationship while they were working.
Oh.
So I thought that was kind of curious, no? But imagine the nervousness.
I was waiting for the cat fight gossip.
No, there was no cat fight. But when they got into the she's her nemesis. You can understand why she was reluctant.
Mm-hmm.
This is like this was like before mom there was this woman who's now the witch who's taking over the house. Of course there was something to work with emotionally and dramatically.
Yeah.
I thought it was no.
Yeah.
And I'm probably thinking this is very smart casting as well, no? From the side of the director, no? It's like you put this woman who has this, backstory that affects the two actresses. It would not be smart not to use it.
Yeah. I think it's like this is a stretch, but the casting in Doppelganger of Drew Barrymore's actual mother in it, and like their strained
I was thinking of Johnny Guitar with Mercedes McCambridge and Joan Crawford, and they had that conflict based on previous lovers. Like,
absolutely.
We're all just waiting for the happy outcome. I know this one's a nice outcome.
I know. It's not as juicy gossip, but it's good gossip. No, used in positive terms.
It is. It's nice to know that women can get along. Not me personally, but
No, but it's also this clash of generations, no? And the movie is very much about this, the clash of generations between these two female characters. But also in real life, Isabella Corona, the big, grand lady of theater, doing, a role late in his life in Mexican cinema, and then this younger actress who's like also the daughter of one of the most important. Because I'm going to switch now to Diana Bracho, who plays Lucia, no, who's like the head of the household, where Tia Alejandra moves in. She's the daughter of Julio Bracho, one of the most revered directors of Mexican cinema as well. He did Another Dawn, Distinto Amanecer, which is a jewel of film noir. If you haven't seen it, you got to take a crack at it, called Another Dawn, Distinto Amanecer. And then there's another famous movie called Sombra del Caudillo, which is, I'm not sure about the name of English, but this is the first movie that denounced the problems of the presidential succession when there were still many generals involved after the Mexican Revolution. And it was based on a very important book, and apparently had the backing of the military when they did it and everything. But the film, as soon as it came out, it got banned, and it radically altered the career of Julio Bracho. He stopped doing films for a while, and this is probably his masterwork. So all that stuff is like the daughter of that man is playing in this film. Diana Bracho, she had made her debut in screens with Arturo Riptein in El Castillo de la Pureza in 1972. So almost like 10 years earlier, she had first worked in cinema with Arturo Ripstein. So they knew each other. No, also Diana Bracho, her aunts is Dolores del Rio and Andrea Palma, also huge ladies of Mexican cinema. So she's like, should we say, like cinema Mexican royalty?
Sounds
No,
like it. Yeah.
and she actually played Maria Felix in 2015 in a short film called Maria Bonita.
Oh.
So there's also the Maria Felix connection comes back again, even though it hadn't happened at the time, but it had been there. You had mentioned that in Tu Mamá También, that's as one of her most important films. She was key in all the big 70s films from Mexico. Diana Bracho was there. The Castle of Purity, El Castillo de la Pureza, Las Poquianchis, which actually just got remade as a Netflix series called Las Muertas, which you can see. It's the same story about a brothel that was run by two women. She was in the original film. And then there's another film called El Infierno de Todos Tan Temido, The Hell Everyone Fears. And she's in all those films too. And Diana Bracho was one of those actresses that she not only worked steadily in film, but she also made the jump into TV. And she was very smart in choosing her roles in telenovelas because she chose some of the most iconic telenovelas. And she made quite a name for herself also in theater. She made huge impact when she did Masterclass. I don't know if you remember that play by Terrence McNally. She did Masterclass here in Mexico for many years, and it was an incredible show.
Oh, wow.
Also, the role but interesting fact, Diana Bracho was not the first choice for this role. Originally, Arturo Ripstein wanted Elena Rojo from Aguirre, The Wrath of God, and the Werner Herzog movie. I don't know if you remember her.
Yeah.
Okay, they wanted Elena Rojo, but they couldn't use her because there was a union dispute because Elena was member of a different union and they could not work with this production. So they had to go to Diana Bracho.
Oh,
Interesting.
I mean, I think Diana Bracho is great in this. So, I mean, I guess it's happy it ended up this way.
It is, no, definitely. But I thought it was very, I'm suddenly thinking, okay, Elena, because when you think of this connection with Isabela Coron and everything, it kind of seemed you would not even think about it. But then thinking there was someone else before her, so this came about later. It keeps you thinking of how sometimes not getting what you want at the first your first option sometimes works for the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I keep thinking about this story of how Del Toro had to deal with Andrew Garfield leaving Frankenstein and ended up with Jacob Elordi, and now he's getting all everybody.
Right.
Everybody's loving him. No, so sometimes second choices are best.
Yeah. Well, Elena Roja went on to work in Don't Panic, which is one of my favorite, just bonkers movie.
Totally bonkers, absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the another unsung love film. It's really bizarre because although it's a Mexican film, it does really feel like an American film.
Yeah, it definitely does. The dinosaur PJs, 100%.
Well, yeah,
but not only that, the casting, how it looks. It really tries hard to be something else, and because there are many Mexican films that have tried to do that, but I think that's one of the most successful ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, Galindo Jr.'s Cemetery of Terror and Grave Robbers, that stars the young Martita in here, the young daughter, Maria Rebecca. Mm-hmm. So, filmed in the RGV, the Rio Grande Valley, Brownsville, Texas, my hometown.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, yeah, really? I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I'm from Harlingen, but yeah, from the Rio Grande Valley. Born and raised.
There we go. Viva Texas.
Yeah, RGV.
Sorry, we got we went on a tangent.
Oh, no, you're good.
Coming back. Manuel Ojeda, the guy who plays Rodolfo, the husband of Lucia, he's one of for my money, he's one of the best Mexican actors ever. I don't know why he did not become a superstar, but he was great. He had this powerful presence. And for American audiences, take a peek at Romancing the Stone.
Yes. Yeah.
I grew up on that movie. As soon as there was that clear picture of his face when he first begins working, he's in the basement working on the music box with Alejandra. I was like, that's Colonel Zolo. That's Romancing the Stone. I love that movie.
The movie's amazing, but he was fantastic. I really would have thought that he would become very famous after that, but he didn't. And curious enough, right after he did the Romancing the Stone movie, he appeared in Alfred Hitchcock Presents episode called Breakdown, and he plays another nasty general, which is really really good. If you have take a peek at that Alfred Hitchcock Presents episode called Breakdown, and you'll see Manuel Ojeda there doing horrible villain once again.
Nice.
So he didn't become a star, but also like Diana Bracho, he is in all the top 70s movies. Canoa, El Infierno Tan Todo Sin Temido, Las Poquianchis, and he had this really bizarre vibe and like really good stare. I think he had his villain stare was great, and he did a tons of TV. He was in a lot of soap operas, also historical telenovelas. One of the things here with telenovelas here in Mexico is that there were not only the usual soap opera style, but there was a lot of soap operas that dealt with the history of Mexico, and they retold like the big moments of history. And people didn't know this, but there was like a pact between the television company that made them and the Ministry of Education, so that they kind of were in the same track in what they were going to say. Because when the television industry first started doing historical telenovelas, they kind of went to a different slant, and the government got mad at them, and they said, let's do them, but let's do them in the same track, so we can educate people. But once again, I went on a sidetrack. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize at all.
Okay, and on the casting thing, so we can close it up. Ignacio Retes, which you mentioned, he's a very interesting character. Although Ignacio Retes does not have a lot of cinema credits, he is a super important part of Mexican arts. He was a very important director of theater.
Oh, okay.
Very important. He's like one of the pillars of Mexican theater, and probably as important as Isabela Corona was in theater, but he was a director. There's a big theater in Mexico City under the name Ignacio Retes. His son, Gabriel Retes, became a very important director also in the 70s. And I'm happy to say I worked on his movies when I was younger. My first film experiences were under Gabriel Retes, and I did meet Don Ignacio Retes. And which at the time, of course, I didn't know he was the guy from Tia Alejandra. It took me a little bit to figure it out.
Yeah.
But he was not very talkative, but he was like, damn, was he smart. He was very, very smart man. And, probably the most, his voice also, he had this thing of like, I caught him reading some stuff out loud, and he was incredible. Mm-hmm. And he had really, really good presence. He only directed one movie, but you can see him in many supporting roles in quite a few films.
Did Ignacio Retes ever direct Isabella Corona in a stage play?
Yes, in stage plays he did.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure it's nice that they put them on screen as like old buddies, that they don't say anything, because they were old buddies. They knew each other.
Yeah.
So this idea, remember, there's a moment when Rodolfo says, "Do you guys know each other?" Mm-hmm. It's like, I got this vibe. It's like, it's definitely, they knew each other from a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, it's like a Rosemary's Baby vibe that I got from
absolutely. Totally the Rosemary's Baby. It made me think a lot about, when I rewatched it for our talk, it made me think a lot about that. That's perfect. Definitely the Rosemary's Baby moment.
Yeah. I love their relationship in it, because I think it sort of exemplifies the movie as a whole. Like, everything is very understated. Nothing is explicit. Like that moment when the doctor is on the phone with Lucia and Alejandra is like listening behind him in the background. And then through the door, you see this naked woman in pink smoke. And, it's never explained. It's not acknowledged, but it's just one of those other elements of this mysterious relationship and what's happening and all around them. And like, that's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, I feel like
it's super creepy
at the end. It's very creepy. Yeah, it's one of the most jarring scenes, and it's so casually presented where you're just like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
But I feel like it hints, in my interpretation of the ending, that we get this full circle, which we'll get to. I guess.
Yeah.
They're preparing for some. There's definitely something bigger going on that we're like barely scratching the surface.
Yeah, because we never really quite know what Alejandra's end game is. What's her goal? Is she trying to teach the youngest daughter? Is she trying to create a coven of witches? Is she trying to train and pass down the torch? Like, that's kind of what it feels like. And I kind of got that from the young girl, the naked girl. Maybe that's someone that they're already like have taken hold of and are training and passing the secrets to. I don't know.
I think it could be that, like,
Or
it's either
ritualistic.
passing along, or, and this is a, bitter old spinster point of view speaking, where it could be like, maybe like after the grandmother dies and she's like, okay, this part of my life is done. I spent my entire life taking care of this woman. Oh, they have this whole family, this whole happy dynamic. That's not fair. So she goes in like a tornado to fuck everything up as like kind of, as sort of payback for the life that she had to live, like that she had to give up. Not that I care about like missing out on having children or anything like that, but that could have been, part of her motivation. I think it could go either way, but the movie doesn't tell you explicitly either. So I think
which I love.
Yeah.
Definitely, that's one of its like aces under the sleeve. No, it leaves it room for so many interpretations, and it just gives you hooks so that you can go bonkers into how you think about why she did it, what is the end game, as Lance was saying, and a curious detail. Remember the in that scene that we were talking about when there's the ritual in the back with the naked lady. There's like a pentagram kind of thing and on the underneath her. I didn't know if you noticed. It's the same pentagram they use in the witch's mirror.
Oh wow!
Of yeah. And also there is a moment when you see Tia Alejandra and you see her where all her witchy stuff is, like her office. I'm gonna say her witch office. If you see the witch's mirror, it's not the mirror, but it is very similar. It is very similar. The way the things are placed, the objects that are on the table, and even where the camera is placed, it echoes a lot of the things from Witches Mirrors, and I'm sure that was totally on purpose.
Yeah, so it makes sense that a lot of the audiences would think that this could be some sort of sequel, like where the witch is and ended up.
I rewatched Witches Mirror recently in October, and that definitely stood out to me when it came up. I was like, oh, it's just like that. Oh, it's also Isabella Corona. And it's all these things that, I wouldn't fault anyone for saying, oh, it's an unofficial sequel, because it feels like it could be a continuation of that story. It's like her work is not done yet. So, but one of the other things I really do love about this is, getting sort of back to everything being sort of understated, nothing being explicit. It's just these minor strange occurrences after she arrives. Anytime Rodolfo and Lucia try to get it on, the house starts shaking. One time
very, very, very moralistic, no?
Yes.
Don't touch each other.
Break it up. Don't get frisky. No,
it's like you've got enough children already. Like you don't need any more. Exactly. What else? The levitating the small table just casually in the living room.
I love how Alejandra, she wastes no time thrusting these young children into her witchcraft or her ritual. And I love how, Rodolfo just comes home, opens the door, and they're chanting, the table's levitating. And then it cuts to the next scene. There's no reaction. You're not quite knowing if perhaps he's on her side. Obviously, she's the breadwinner and he'd rather work in the basement on music boxes than work. And so I don't know if he's turning a blind eye to it, or does he know more, like the doctor? I like how everything's presented, and the viewer isn't watching how they're reacting to these strange situations. It just abruptly cuts.
Yes.
And then it made me think, going back to what Erica was saying about the pressure cooker within the family dynamic, of sometimes when you see something really weird in the family, but you're like, fuck, this happened, but you don't say anything. You're like, okay, kind of let it go. It made me feel like that. And I think it works really well into the whole toxic family dynamic. I don't know if you remember that in the later part of the film, when after the children start dying, Rodolfo starts drinking quite a lot.
Yeah.
Turns out, and in the original short story, he was a drinker from before. And one of the things that Lucia likes a lot when Tia Alejandra moves into the house is that at first, everything is really nice. And the first good thing is that Rodolfo stops drinking. when Tia Alejandra first moves in. That's in the short story. That they didn't use that in the movie, but I thought it was an interesting element. No, of like how alcohol always being like the big bad guy in terms of family dynamics and alcoholism in Mexico. But it was to me it was an interesting thing, and also the levitating table thing coming right after going to see the mummies. Imagine the trip. You go see the mummies in the morning, and then you have a class of how to levitate the table afterwards.
What
That's
a day!
A really good day, no?
And then did you get the puppet show? The puppet show at night, maybe?
You had mentioned
creepiest puppets, right? We did not talk about those.
Well, you had mentioned that Isabella Corona and her voice and reading poetry, and she really showcases it. Her voice range while she's doing these puppets' voices, and also the moaning when she in her death scene. Her voice is very captivating, and I could see her doing theater for sure. Since you said, and she gives a stereotypical witch cackle during that performance.
I know.
It's like
I think she really had fun. I have a feeling she had fun doing that. No, she's like, okay, I'm going to go fucking nuts on this one, and go into strange places. But also, bravo on the creepy puppets. No, I think that appearance when the father is drinking, and he sees him one in the corner, and then at the end when they push them out of the trunk, and they're like inexplicably alive. Fuck, that's like a super badass moment.
Yeah,
it's like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood nightmare. Like they're terrorizing the family.
I would have loved to have seen the puppets just casually laying on the ground, just in random scenes, but never acknowledged. Just like randomly, they're just in the corner on the floor over here, but no one sees them or even talks about them. It's like, we can talk about the puppets? No, we're not. Like everything else.
I have to say, going down on that idea, this movie is like, I'm amazed they haven't thought of remaking it, because it is so good for using the family drama, limited locations, and maybe go off and use those ideas as to kind of pop up the horror a little bit more.
Yeah,
it would work really well.
I think that's a great idea. And I think that's just a case of not enough people have seen it to think to remake it. It's probably got, I'm sure it's got a much bigger audience in Mexico, but here, I think while it is No Rules November, and we did break our 1,000 views on Letterboxd, well, it's still fairly low. So it's one of those things where, like, Lance and I went on a tangent in our No Rules November episode about like no original ideas and remakes and stuff like that. I won't go back there. I've said my piece. People know how I feel about it. But, something like this, as much as I love this, in the right hands, I could definitely see a remake of something like this, especially for someone who is a low budget filmmaker having single location. I would prefer that it was made by somebody in Mexico. But,
definitely. Yeah.
I can't control these things. So.
No, and also you were saying about the availability of the film. When I was programming Mexico Maleficarum, this was one of the films I was very interested in showcasing, but the rights issues were like a minefield. And it came to a point where I was like, okay, this is one of the ones that I'm gonna have to let go, because it's like it's tough.
Yeah.
And that's one of the horrible things with Mexican horror cinema and Mexican cinema in general. There's many wonderful films that are trapped. I'm gonna go on another tangent since we're liking tangents today, but there's like a YouTube channel that is uploading really good copies of Mexican classic films, but they're changing the names.
Oh, interesting.
They're doing restorations, and they're just like, they change the name, and I'm sure that's like something to go over copyrights or like. And I know some of the films I know have like who's the owner issues. And I was like, and I talked to them, like when I saw them, I called them, I was like, did you see what they're doing? It's like, yeah, these fuckers. And it's like, it's no, but I'm sure that they found a loophole or something, but they're like, and they're uploading like 5 a week.
Oh,
how are they searchable? Like how would one go about finding these movies? Like, how did you locate?
I'll send you the link so you can take a peek at the.
Okay,
It's a
great.
YouTube channel, but it's out of this world. It's like suddenly they just change the title. So, but even now, when you're looking for a film, you don't find the film.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to like know. You really need to know the new name, or like if you're looking for the actor, go by one to see where the actor is or what the year of production was.
Yeah.
But it's crazy, like the stuff about rights and everything.
Yeah.
Equally, it's a minefield.
We had to point our listeners for this movie in particular to Okru, or the Russian YouTube, which, I mean, shout out to them. Like, they put some stuff up that, that you can't find on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I'd be
No, but Mexican cinema is like most of the jewels are more available there than on YouTube.
Yes.
And I mean, we're not going to go into the whole Russia United States thing right now.
Yeah.
But it's it's different channels suddenly. Like,
yeah, the Akru, the version that we kind of shared with our viewers, they do have subtitles that actually work. We're on YouTube. If you can find Mexican horror or cinema movies that you're looking for, you have to auto translate, and that doesn't work about 50% of the time.
Oh yeah, no, that never works. So yeah, no, at least they're aware that without the subtitles they lose a lot of their audience.
Yeah. All right.
But anyway, let us leave world relations between the United States and Russia, and come back to Isabel, to our dear friends in the Tia Alejandra show. Sorry, I'm afraid to go into politics.
Oh no, it's okay. We hate it here. It's all good.
Naughty. I wanted to bring up something interesting. Remember, going back to the levitating table, remember they're chanting something? Todo es otra cosa. Todo es otra cosa, which translates as everything is something else.
Yes.
No? That's what they're chanting. I found an interview with Leonardo Garcia Tsao. Leonardo Garcia Tsao was the head. He's a film critic, historian. He made a really beautiful book about Guillermo del Toro, of interviews with him. And he ran the Cineteca here for many years. And he mentions that he has this theory that the whole movie, Tia Alejandra, is a metaphor. At the time that this movie was happening, was being made, a new president had been sworn in Mexico, Jose Lopez Portillo. And one of the things he did is he put his sister in charge of film, Margarita Lopez Portillo. During that time, that's known as one of the darkest moments in Mexican film history, because she made the whole arts scene like her realm. Like the only things that were happening were things that she liked or thought were good, and everything else was shit. She was especially nasty to the film industry. She made up charges to a few people who were running the studios, and she put them in jail and tortured them. And then mysteriously, at some point, the Cineteca exploded. There's tons of dark history of doing that. So Leonardo Garcia Sao said to Ripstein, is like, there's people that say that it's a metaphor about Tia Alejandra being, a presence of Margarita Lopez Portillo, and your whole film is it's a metaphor for how much she's fucking up Mexican cinema. And Arturo Ripstein said, well, to tell you the truth, I never thought about it. That was not the intention, but it's a really good story. And I just might be repeating that once from here on. I'm going to say that was the case, because it's a really good, it really works well. I thought it was interesting to mention it, just because, it's one of those things when it lines up, it could work that way. And even though he didn't think about it, it could work on a meta-fictional level. And I just wanted to bring that up, just because one of the projects I'm doing right now really deals with that time of Margarita Lopez Portillo. And it's one of those interesting moments where, okay, there's a woman heading cinema, but she did it all wrong. No, just, a genre doesn't automatically is going to make things work wonderful.
Yeah.
No? We're both human beings, both females and males, and we can fuck up equally.
Yeah. I like that Ripstein just embraced that. He was like, no, I didn't intend that, but fuck yeah, I'm going with it. So
right, it's good. It sounds good.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, he's famous for getting in fights with the critics, or that don't agree with him, or saying other things. So the fact that he actually embraced it was, quite for me, it was like probably the first time I heard him embrace something a critic said. So that's why I thought it would be interesting to mention it.
Yeah. Lance, what are some of like your sort of favorite moments from the film that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I do want to point out that we've had Abraham. This is the second time you've been with us, and there's a music box involved again, like with the Black Pit of Dr. M.
Yeah.
I don't know if
absolutely music box
connection. Yeah,
I planned this all along. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, you did. Tell us the truth.
Now, some of my favorites, some scenes visually, and just some of the ideas. One of my favorite visual scenes is when the youngest daughter, Martita, she climbs out of the mother's bed and she joins Alejandro on the rooftop. And, there's like these dry cleaning kind of blowing in the night sky. Then it becomes, of course, unsettling when she starts, scaling the balcony rail. But that, as soon as she walks out and walks toward Alejandra, it's so beautifully shot. Just a great, great scene. And then the deaths, the murders of everybody. Poor Rodolfo, death by waterbed. It's like clumsy.
It's so awkward.
It's anticlimactic, very kind of goofy, but at the same time, it's kind of terrifying. Yeah. It's like he's just sitting there and his wife is just watching him drown on top of the waterbed.
At first I thought, is it not a waterbed? And he's like sweating out all the alcohol he's been drinking and like that's what's drowning him.
Well, as soon as he laid down, I saw it.
And I was like, okay, it's a waterbed.
Very like Edward Scissorhands moment. I'm like, no, they got a waterbed. Yeah. Respect.
Yeah.
But yeah, the burning of the oldest child, that with the dummy on fire while she's screaming in pain and agony. That whole scene was great. I know we mentioned it's mostly a single location except for a few exterior shots. That whole setup seems like it might have taken a long time to film, because that whole fire department showing up and the actual burning and putting out the fire, that whole scene's real impressive.
That's obviously one of my favorite scenes, along with, the death of Andreas. And honestly, did Alejandro do it, or was that his fault? Because he's walking downstairs in skates. Like you're asking for it at that point. So whatever, that's one of my favorites. And then as well as Morena, dummy on fire. But yeah, you're right. Like, I was like, oh, wow, there's a real fire in that fucking building.
Great scene.
They do. Ripstein does mention that one of the things he's proudest of is working with the special effects crew. He said he did like an incredible work. And I think it goes to mention with what Lance was saying about, the big fire scene and, it's complicated. And then there's, for example, remember when they're burying Andres and then it's drenching.
Yeah.
It's not raining, it's drenching. No? And it's like, quickly shot, it's very few shots, but it must have taken quite a bit to set up all of that, and it works really well, no? And especially now that I've told you about the time they had to shoot the film, it's like you also see, film people, professionals at their best, working on their, budget constraint, time constraint, but getting the job done, and when you see the movie, it works really well. And going back to the skates thing that you were saying, Erica, I think that's the beauty of it. Did Alejandra do it or not? It works both ways.
Yeah.
No, she does have the powers. She insists on because you can clearly see that she's using a voice to summon him up when the mother never called him.
Yeah.
But she knows he's gonna fucking fall at some point. So she's like kind of pushing the stakes. No, she's the table is set.
Yes.
For a disaster.
Well, that roller skate should have a starring role in this, because it's she trips on it and she becomes injured and is out for 2 months. Andres is killed, and then at the end, it's her.
I don't know if you saw this, but there's a few scenes before when there's a moment where Lucia, the mother, is brooming the patio, and she finds the skate and she takes it and throws it next to the car.
Yeah.
Like they set up the skate is perfectly set up from the beginning. You know that you don't notice it. You're like, oh, a skate. But then when it happens, you're like, fuck yeah, this kid has left the skates before. So and purposely.
Then the violent ending with the mother beating Alejandra with it in bed with her pillow, just soaking up the blood from the wounds. And it's like a minute long of her just kind of moaning, like Joe Spinell from Maniac or something. Just it's very unsettling, that murder scene.
And like,
I was sorry to interrupt.
No,
But
go ahead.
you were saying about the favorite moments. I have to say that apart from the mummy moment, that is my personal mega favorite, and then the puppets that are fucking creepy, especially the father when he's drinking. That's the kind of thing you don't want to happen when you're drinking or going on the bench.
No.
Pop up. You don't want that to happen. No, that's that would make you go to Alcoholics Anonymous immediately.
Yeah.
But the ending, going back to the third loving part that I have of this movie, the killing part is nasty, and then dragging the body. I really like the fact that it's like, no, okay, I killed it. That thing of like, now I have to deal with the body, and you're thinking, why is she taking it out? She's gonna fucking burn it.
Yeah. And it's the dummy too. That dummy looks real, like how she's dragging it down the stairs with the head.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, not
it's
to
good. And then
go ahead.
And
sorry.
she even moans, like she makes some voices before she, like it appears that she's still alive.
There's an internal, she's like moaning, help me, just internally, her lips aren't moving.
And I'm thinking, is she dead already? And she's still talking and she's all cool. Like that's like, acting wise from Diana Brach, like one of the loveliest moments, because I think in any other normal movie, she would have freaked out. They would have had the character freak out. But she chose, or they told her, no, you stay cool. You know you're doing your job. You have to eliminate the witch. Just don't listen. That was nasty.
Yeah.
I liked it. But I interrupted, Erica. You were going to say something.
Oh, no, yeah. I feel like I shouldn't be on Alejandra's side, but like when she gets thrown out and just is like sleeping on the sidewalk outside of the house, and then Lucia comes out and like brings her back in. Like, I know Alejandra is like, she's doing some fucked up shit in the house. I know.
I mean, all the children are dying.
I know, but like arguably their fault. So
but again, you don't know if this is part of her plan, because obviously she wants the husband and wife in some sort of separation or out of the picture. So is this all part of her universal plan? Like, it is sad to watch her scene.
I felt
laying
bad
out there.
for the witch on the sidewalk. I'm sorry. I don't know what that says about me, but I felt bad for her. And then she gets burned alive, like legitimately, like not literally burned at the stake like a witch is, but she's burned to death. Like,
with tea, hot tea.
With hot tea. Yeah. But like, I love the scene too, like after the fire is out, where she is putting the ashes into the music box, and then the music box comes back to life. Like there's all these just, again, understated supernatural elements, going on, like the birds dying when she gets poisoned. I'm like, okay, so the birds are her life force, and like, I don't know.
I love where she's burying the birds. There's a howling of the wind going on. That's just really well done. Really good sound design. But there's a lot of questions, and I love how it's open to interpretation. That's just something that's great about this movie.
I went into the archives to look to see if the screenwriter had been asked about this film, him being such a sacred cow, and there was tons of stuff.
Yeah.
But curiously enough, there's nothing. He never talked about anything about the making of this movie. And I have my personal theory. I'm thinking that Vicente Leñero being such he was a playwright, he was a journalist, he was a screenwriter. He understood probably the horror tropes, and he understood that he had all these things he could play with, but probably didn't want to go into it. I do feel all the time that both Ripstein and him don't like the horror genre, but they're like playing with the stuff that they think can work, which is probably why the film is so effective still. No, because the horror elements are there, but they don't play it the full way, nor do they explain it. They keep it in the mystery. No?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And going back to that, it emotionally it works. Like the dynamics of the characters make it work, but also you could go on the supernatural explanation. Going back to that thing that you were saying, you feel sorry for Tia Alejandra when she's outside. It's a sad image. It's a tragic. It's hard not to react to that, and they probably do it on purpose. No,
yeah.
Ripstein is being known as many people mention that he's a sadist fucker, as a sadist director. He makes all of his characters go through fucking hell. All his stories are about human misery. He likes the shitty end of the spectrum of human emotion, no?
Yeah.
And you can see him on this really playing those cards well. So your emotion goes to one side, although you should be in the other, and then getting conflicted. You can see that there's a masterwork in a plan, emotionally speaking, which is always good, no, in the film.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is all I have from my notes. Lance, do you have anything else?
No. It just watching a movie like this makes me want to dive into like Isabella Corona's filmography and more of the cast, and that's kind of my goal for 2026 is just to keep watching, because some of my favorite watches this year have been Mexican horror. And I just want
I'm delighted to hear that.
Yeah.
I mean,
we need to give you more microphones.
Yeah. Half of his list for October was Mexican horror.
Yeah,
movies.
my horror gets
great.
back. I mean, a lot of it's really goofy, like Irma Linda, Chabelo and Pepito versus the Monsters. Who has a great mummy in that, by the way?
He does absolutely. It's in the show. Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, On the Edge of Terror. So many bangers, and I just want to keep that going. So I was especially excited about this episode with Abraham on here. So
it's a special movie, no? Because as I said, it goes against all of the usual Mexican horror tropes or like dynamics.
mm-hmm.
It still works, and it has the mummies. It has real life cadavers on screen, which is not usually you don't see that. They're not dummies. They're not puppets. And then there's for Erica, there's like two really good child deaths.
Yes.
It's like no, it's bizarre that we don't. It's when we get things that we like from different sides.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it's one of those films that brings us together.
Yeah, it hits a lot of the sweet spots for sure.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
Last time Abraham was here, we put together a list on Letterboxd of all the films that were mentioned during this episode. I will do the same for this episode because I know a lot got thrown out, and a lot of times listeners are listening in their car and don't have time to write anything down. So I'll put that list together. We'll link it in show notes.
May I mention something just since you're doing that? I love that you do that.
Yeah.
Going into the witch connection, Chano Rueta, who made The Witch's Mirror, a few years earlier, he made a film called The Witch. Make sure to include that one.
Oh, okay.
That was one of the ones we showed in at Mexico Maleficarum, and it's really good. And it's kind of a stretch because it's not really like a horror film. It's more like a noir, and it has some sci-fi elements, but it's fantastic, and it has one of the best makeups in Mexican horror cinema.
Oh,
so La Bruja by Chano Rueta.
Interesting.
So you can see this man knew his stuff. No, he had The Witch's Mirror. He had The Witch. Then he made a film which is the one where Isabella Corona first worked, called La Noche de los Mayas, The Night of the Mayas, where Isabella plays a witch, and there's like witchcraft involved and everything. Yeah. So he knew his stuff.
He definitely knew his stuff when he made that tongue in the Brainiac. So
absolutely.
I love it. All right. Before we get to double features, did you have any other notes or stories or anything you wanted to share about the film, Abraham?
A little detail that I found in the short story where the Tia Alejandra is based. For this last thing, remember the thing we were saying about Lucia burning the witch?
Mm-hmm.
In the actual short story, there's a thing that the Lucia mentions, that when she was burning the body, it kept twitching, it kept moving, and she's and in the short story she says, "Oh, I thought I got scared at the beginning because I thought she was still alive, but then I realized that sometimes bodies do that. So then it's fine. Then I didn't thought it was anything supernatural, just very blasé like that." And I thought, what a really cool moment. I would have loved if they had included that.
Yeah.
One of those little details from the short story that I thought was very...
In the short story, does the daughter show up at the end like it does in the film, like she does?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's like the big moment.
Yeah, no, that's the cherry on top, no? It totally brings it 360, and it's like the nightmare actually just started. You thought it ended, it just started.
Yeah, she's got the necklace, and it's
I think so. That could, we said before, there's not really a direct answer about like what's her motivation, but with Martita showing up at the end, it's like, well, was that the goal all along, or did she just show up because, Alejandra is dead, and so that kind of forced that to happen? So I think there's still a question, even though Martita does show up at the end. So
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
For my money, she transferred her soul to Martita, and Lucia is fucked.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think it's the exact same opening. There's a music box, but in this case, Martita is Aunt Alejandra and her mother is the grandmother. That's, the young daughter's going to inherit everything as soon as she's done with the mom.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And it comes back to her, yes, which is, the old soul transference trick that still works so well.
All right, Abraham. So you've thrown out a lot of movies at us today, but we want you to throw out at least, one or two more. What, if you were screening Aunt Alejandra, what is a movie that you think would pair really well with it in double feature?
Okay. You know that I get crazy on that side. So I prepared three. The obvious one, the obvious one that is kind of like required, but that's like the 101 option is Witch's Mirror and La Tia Alejandra. No, but I think that's like, we need to go beyond the 101. I would suggest to play Tia Alejandra with a Spanish movie called La Abuela, the Grandmother, 2020, directed by Paco Plaza, the guy who made Veronica. This movie is available on Netflix for those of you who are listening. And if you have not watched that, and if you've had to care for a family member that is getting older and is sick, it's gonna trigger everything nasty that you feel. It's really hard, but it's really good. It is really creepy. And it's one of those few films that when I was watching it, I was like, this is too much. Oh, fuck. Oh my God. No. And it gives you this sense of like the otherworldly and that there's stuff beyond you that you cannot control and that black magic exists. And I love it. So I think they would pair really well. And the fact that they're Spanish speaking and one is Mexico and the other one's Spain, I think they would connect really well.
Nice.
And then on a third, because of course we have a third choice. And for those of who would like something more contemporary, well, not that 2020 is that far away, but I think that Tia Alejandra and Weapons would work.
Yeah, I had that actually on my list.
Mine too.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm glad we have multiple picks.
Yeah.
But you're right. You have the very creepy Aunt Gladys popping in and causing havoc on a family members and stuff.
Yeah.
No, and kind of the moral of, because I've been working on this, not working, but every now that I watched horror movies, I always try to, okay, what is the message? What is the movie telling me? And it made me think of both Weapons and Tia Alejandra made me feel exactly the same thing I thought when I saw Nosferatu, the remake. Is like, you do not help. When people ask you for help and they want to live in your house, you say no. Right. You do not fucking help. You do not open your doors. You have to keep them away, because both in the Nosferatu and in the Weapons and in the Tia Alejandra, it was just bad. You're trying to be nice and look for your fellow human, and you're just opening the door for the devil to come into your door.
Yeah,
those three movies made me think the same thing. So I don't know, as Erica would say, I don't know what that says about me, but it made me think it's like, shit, if somebody says like, I'm going to stay with you, I'm like, I'm not so sure. No, I don't think so. All right. So we got to ask like the witch doctor or like the priest to go over it, or like the dog, at least the dog, you know how sometimes like in many horror movies, there's a family who's going to buy the house and the house is haunted. And they don't ask the dog or the cat to like check it out first, because they are the ones the first to know that there's something fucked up.
Right. You need to listen to animals more.
Absolutely. Especially for that type of thing.
Adding on to that about like not allowing, accepting creepy family members into your home. There is a episode from the anthology television series Night Gallery from 1971 called Since Aunt Ada Came to Stay. Where it's a lot of similarities here with Aunt Alejandra. You get a creepy aunt arrives, who's a witch, and she starts influencing the young niece, and the father's trying to convince his wife to kick her out. I'm not going to select a short TV episode though, but it's a pretty neat little short segment.
Say the name again.
Since Aunt Ada Came to Stay. Yeah, ADA. I think that's how you say her name. It's Ada.
I think it's Ada, yeah.
See?
But yeah, it's from the Night Gallery television
Fantastic.
series.
I don't know that one. I'm going to look for that one.
Oh, the witch looks great. She's, I mean, effectively creepy. And then we already mentioned Rosemary's Baby with the vibes with the doctor being in on everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of a very small element of Alejandra. But I went with another Mexican horror, one that I really love, Poison for the Fairies from 1986.
Claro. Yes.
Yeah. With
Definitely.
I've mentioned before, I think Taboada has like the best movie titles ever. With I don't know if the translations are
It is, right? They're very
Blacker
very
Than the
good.
Night, Even the Wind is Afraid, The Book of Stone, just great titles. But
And a beautiful thing that since we're doing mirrors and connections through times and space,
Mhm.
Taboada is co-writer of The Witch's Mirror.
That's right.
Oh,
wow.
okay. Yeah. I forgot about that. Okay.
I didn't even put that connection. That's why I'm picking this.
Okay.
There you go. No. You picked it
Okay.
up perfectly. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, like with Poison for the Fairies, it follows. You have these two young girls. One of them, Veronica, is convincing enough that she is a witch of sorts, and bad things obviously start happening to which she's accused, which leads to a good old fashioned fire. That's kind of similar to what we witness on Alejandra. But yeah, I think they would pair up well.
Definitely. And in going back to similarities, they mentioned the same mummies. The difference being, remember that Flavia takes Veronica to the mummy place to watch the mummies.
That's right.
The interesting
Right.
part is that in Tia Alejandra, they had access to the actual mummies. In the other film, in Poison for the Fairies, they couldn't get the permit and they had to make the mummies. They made up the mummies, but they actually go to the same place. So the mirror connection is beautiful.
Oh well, yeah. Better memory than mine, and you make my pick so much better. That's a good connection.
I have to say, I've been studying Mexican mummies like hardcore for the last year. So I am, should I say, very well versed into the mummy universe at this point.
That's great. What about you, Erica?
I don't think mine has any mummies in it, but so I'm already at a disadvantage here. But mine is also a Taboada film. I have been diving a lot into Henry James' Turning of the Screw adaptations for the book, and one of them is The Book of Stone, which is 1969. It's about Julia. She's a governess. She comes to work for this bougie family. There's all these sort of like weird things that start happening. So really sort of leaning on the arrival of a new person to a home where either weird things were happening before she arrived, but we weren't there to know that, or we maybe hear about it. So I like the idea of like the arrival of one person and then like all of a sudden chaos ensues.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Satan.
Yes, Dr. Satan, of course.
And Dr. Satan.
Cannot forget Dr. Satan in our discussion today.
Dr. Satan.
But I think, Weapons was one of the first ones that did come to mind when I was thinking about it. And it's hard not to because of, recency bias, of course. And I'm rarely one to recommend a new horror movie because, I think it's fine. But I know this one, Weapons, has a lot of fans. And so if you are someone who saw that movie, really loved it, Aunt Alejandra is one that you would love as well.
That's a great call. Yeah. Because there are a lot of fans.
Definitely. No. And it's also nice to see there's stories that keep that once you rework them, they can be told over and over again. And it's one of the beautiful things about, when you start deep diving into, horror cinema throughout the ages. And you can retell these stories and you start enriching the vocabulary and the lore. And I mean, that was one of the beautiful things that Weapons did so in such a beautiful way. No?
Yeah.
Old story brought new images and refreshed it of sorts. No, told it differently, but we can even connect to a Mexican movie from 1979.
Yeah, absolutely. No? Abraham, we love you dearly, and we're so happy that you came back for us to talk about this movie. Tell our listeners where they can follow you so that they can stay up to date with all the wonderful things you're working on.
Thank you. You're also beloved. Unsung Horror has been an ally and a friend throughout, all my adventures, and I'm so delighted to be back. I applaud what you guys do and that you bring attention to unseen cinema from all over the world, which is something that not many people do in the US. And I think definitely applaud you for that. And if you're still interested in what I'm doing, Abraham Castillo Flores can be found in the Instagram and Twitter and BlueSky under the name Aullidos Panteoneros, which I know is a mouthful, but it's the actual translation is Graveyard House, but it's AULLIDOS, Aullidos, and I'm sure I'll pop up really quickly on the search now that artificial intelligence is fucking taking everything by storm. So you don't have to type so fast, but just a plugging. Do type, do write in hand every once in a while. Do not forget that our brains are powerful, and even though it might take longer, it will taste better if we do it, if we remember it, and if we actually push ourselves to do things. Not everything is AI.
Yes.
That's it.
I mean, rarely anything should be. And we'll put a link to where y'all can follow Abraham in our show notes in case you're not somewhere where you can write that down.
And if you can mention if you can also maybe mention the Witch's Mirror in the indicator page where they still sell the Blu-ray, I think that'll be good.
Absolutely.
If people are interested in that, and hopefully if they're curious in Mexican cinema, they'll find quite a few titles.
Is the box set still available, or is it just individual titles now?
Individuals. The box set, that box set is sold out.
Good.
I'm happy to report.
It should be.
Yes. El Vampiro is still available. The Vampiro box set is still available, but you can find The Witch's Mirror and all the other films, The Curse of La Llorona, The Brainiac, and Black Pit of Dr. M as single Blu-rays.
Okay, great. We'll do that for sure.
And also a big shout out to our friends from Alameda Films who keep those films alive, and they're masters of restoring and championing their films and making sure that their archive is great. By the way, since you were telling me about old stuff that I worked on, did you guys see the box set that Radiance pulled out, the Buñuel box set?
Yes.
With Simon of the Desert, Viridiana, and Exterminating Angel.
Mm-hmm.
Those transfers are gorgeous. No, 4K transfers. Those movies have never looked better, and I was so happy to work on that, on those special features. I was just plugging that. So if you guys are interested in, the Mexican jewels of Buñuel, check those out. That was also a very good release from Radiance.
Yes, absolutely. We'll put that a link to that in show notes as well. All right. If you're not following our podcast already, we're at Unsung Horrors on Instagram. I'm at Hex Massacre on Instagram and Letterboxd.
I'm there as El Schibi.
So we'll be back at the probably end of December with our end of year wrap up episode. As usual, we'll be going through our Letterboxd stats, but we are doing something a little different this year. No spoilers here, but stay tuned for that end of year episode. And then after that, we will be back in February to our regularly scheduled individual episodes covering one film. Abraham, thank you so much one more time. And everyone, please make sure you're following him for a light in the darkness of Instagram.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank both of you.
Mm-hmm.
Viva Unsung Horrors. Viva Eric and Lance. Amazon and Wire of cinema, and your passion is so important. Oh my God. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Abraham.
No, your passion is unparalleled, and really looking forward to sometimes we can see each other in person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Next time you're in Austin, or next time we're in Mexico City.
Or if you're traveling, we'll meet up.
Let's do this pact. If we either go cross each other's national border, let us make sure that we see each other.
Yes.
How's that?
Agreed.
Love it. Agreed.
All right. Big hug. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, that you're listening for this deep dive along two marvelous human beings that love horror cinema and discovering the deep end of the pool.
Puse un hechizo en vos. será mejor que dejes las cosas que haces. Hey, yo no miento. No, no, yo no miento. Sabes que no puedo soportarlo. Estás dando vueltas. Lo sabes mejor que nadie, nene. No puedo soportar que me hayas dejado. Puse un hechizo en vos. Te quiero, te quiero, te quiero de todas formas. Y no me importa si no me quieres. Ahora soy tuya, escucha. Puse un hechizo en vos. Porque sos mío.
Hello and welcome to Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys. My name is Hunter. In this podcast, I'll be joined by a different guest each week to discuss a classic Western movie or TV show. I've been a fan of classic Westerns for as long as I can remember, and in recent years, they've become very nostalgic for me. I love the aesthetic, the tropes, and I love seeing different filmmakers' takes on them. At their best, they're incredibly entertaining, rewatchable, and some of my all-time favorite movies are Westerns. We'll mostly focus on Western movies made in Hollywood, but we'll also be covering spaghetti Westerns, and one thing I'm very excited to get into are Western TV shows. I've got some amazing guests coming on the show, film professors, historians, and podcasters. And Tumbleweeds and TV Cowboys is part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, and many guests on the show will be from other shows on the network. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description